11 yards for the dagger, Aaron Jones.
Gesicki touchdown. Touchdown.
And Mayfield is dropping dimes.
Trubisky hit. The ball is free. The Lions say they've got it. Peterson left side. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
It's caught. Picked up by the Patriots. Touchdown, Patriots. Sammy Kornoshevsky under it at the number 30. Beats another man. Tight over the sideline. Into the end zone.
Colts get an absolute gift, and they'll take it. Holy my.
Intercepted. Harry the pig man. Bailey. The Vikings win.
A pick six for Troy Hill.
Late throw comes near side. Kelsey at the 5, angling left. Touchdown.
The first passing touchdown for Taysom Hill.
Pass deflected and intercepted by the Giants. Vegas touchdown. Vegas touchdown. Jackpot. And away.
Wow.
I tell you what, maybe it was me. When you looked at the Week 13 schedule on paper, it really wasn't that scintillating. That's why they play the games. What a Sunday it was. Welcome to a huge Monday edition of NFL Now on NFL Network from our newsroom in Los Angeles. I'm Andrew Siciliano. Hope you had a great weekend. We officially have 2 teams in. Everything you need to know about the Chiefs and the Saints coming up in a bit. And we had 2 more teams eliminated and what it might mean here for the Chargers. They're one of them. But we begin this hour with news out of New York. This play right here evidently got Greg Williams fired. Although it wasn't only the Henry Ruggs touchdown with 5 seconds left that ripped the Jets' first victory out of their hands and gave the Raiders perhaps a playoff-saving win. But this was the final straw. Tom Pelissero had the news earlier this morning. Tom and Ian now with me. Ian Rappaport, gentlemen, hope you had a great weekend. Hello to you both. Adam Gase and Jets management had seen enough. Tom, they still have not won a game, but evidently they didn't realize that this is what Greg Williams does, which is bring the house in these kind of end-of-game situations.
Well, Andrew, even for Greg Williams, this was, let's call it, an extreme call to go 0 blitz with 13 seconds to go and a 4-point lead, forcing an undrafted rookie cornerback Lamar Jackson to try to cover one of the fastest guys in the NFL, Henry Ruggs, one-on-one. It was not solely the call that led to today's decision for the Jets to fire defensive coordinator Greg Williams. It was also the fact that that call was so bizarre to the players. You had one of their locker room leaders like Marcus May saying publicly, we got to be in a better call. You've got to help us out. Let's go back to October, too. You remember when Greg Williams made a public statement that basically blamed the offense for how his defense was struggling. Even at that point, Adam Gase did not want to fire Greg Williams. He did not have plans to fire Greg Williams. He wanted to power through this thing. It just got to the point where they could no longer justify having Greg Williams around based on what happened yesterday. And, oh, yeah, over the next 4 weeks, they've got 4 more challenging games, starting out with a trip to Seattle coming up this week to try to avoid 0-16.
Yeah, and, of course, Tom, the irony of this entire thing is depending on where the Jets end up when the season's over, if they have the number 1 pick, this call, this mind-numbing call by Greg Williams will probably go down as one of the more important in Jets history. Not that anyone wants to acknowledge that now, but that's the reality. And then you look at the rest of the coaching staff. It really, guys, does not seem like Jets management, like Jets ownership wants to make a move. They would like to see Adam Gase and the rest of his coaches finish out the season. And as far as the possible reason why they would like these guys to finish the season, it's sort of like, what would be the point of firing everyone now? The season is what it is. They're going in the direction that they're going. You'd like 2 full years to evaluate everyone. And does firing someone like, let's say, Adam Gase really get you anything right now? Probably not. So it's just Greg Williams today, and I would expect that to continue.
Greg Williams gets kicked off the island first. In other words, Adam Gase, you now have to stay. And Frank Bush, the assistant head coach and a linebackers coach and a former defensive coordinator elsewhere, takes over for now. It seems as the DC on the winless 0-12 New York Jets. Bengals won at 0-11 last year in Week 13. Jets couldn't do it. All right, you guys stick around. I want to get to the Eagles and their quarterback situation. Oh, by the way, the Packers are involved in this story as well because Aaron Rodgers is involved. in this story. You know, the Eagles won last year at Lambeau. Not going to happen this time. Here's Aaron Rodgers to Davante Adams, who has a touchdown catch now in 7 consecutive games that ties the great Don Hutson for the longest streak in team history, and it's 7-3. Remember Rodgers out of the end zone, right? In Indy late in that game in the fourth quarter. That was to MVS. This is to Adams for 42 yards. Kind of looks similar there between Darius Slay and Avonte Maddox. 1 of 10 catches on the day for Adams, and then 6 plays later. Do you sense a trend here? Rough night for Darius Slay on Monday against DK Metcalf. Rough day again here against Davante Adams. 295 yards and 3 touchdowns for Aaron Rodgers, and it gets to 400. But the story of this game, Carson Wentz sacked again. He has now been sacked 3 or more times in 10 consecutive games. That is the longest streak in 22 years in the NFL. And they would bench him with the Eagles down 20-3. So you wanted Jalen Hurts, you're going to get Jalen Hurts. And it was not just for one drive, it was for the rest of the game. He came out and he made some throws. Here's Zach Ertz for 20. Remember, they're down big here. That was on 3rd down. And then 4 plays later, it's now 4th and 18. And this is the one where maybe you're convinced the kid has it. We knew he had it, certainly at both Alabama and at Oklahoma. But this on 4th and 18 to Greg Ward for 32 yards. Wentz with his helmet on. He's listening to the plays. He's clapping. By the way, Jalen Hurts was also sacked 3 times. So this idea that he's just going to run around and make plays, they also got him 3 times. And he got help from Jalen Reagor. Look at that move on J.K. Scott. It's a 52-yard punt return for a touchdown. The Eagles missed the PAT, but they're back to within a touchdown here. So maybe Jalen Hurts pulls this. No, he doesn't. No, because Aaron Jones put this away with a 77-yard not only game-clinching touchdown, but for many of you out there, fantasy week clinching touchdown as well. And the Packers get themselves a win, and now we have a quarterback decision, a dilemma, if you will, in Philadelphia.
I think you create your own energy, and you know, as great as it was, as great as the spark that was, the things, you know, that energy we had. Moving forward, it's about what we do moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what the plan was fully. I was just told he was going in for the next play and next series, so I didn't really know what was going on there. But obviously that's frustrating as a competitor, and just the personality that I have. You know, I want to be the guy out there, but you know, it is what it is, and you know, they made the call today, and at the end of the day, we lost. As a team, we lost, and that's what I think, for me, I'm most frustrated about.
I'm not prepared right now to make any statement or decisions on that. You know, I'm still processing a lot of things and going through a lot of things before I make that decision. So that when I know, you'll know.
That last soundbite there, hi guys, back with me again, Ian and Tom. That last soundbite was from about a half hour ago. Doug Peterson, Ian, says, and they get the Saints this week, oh, by the way, and that great defense, that he has not yet made up his mind. And he said, and I found this interesting, he's not really consulting with anybody. Not going to consult with coaches, he said. He wants to make the decision himself. He said, this is my decision. It's between me and me.
Yeah, I would be curious to see what he and him and also himself end up coming up with in this. But there's a reason that Doug Peterson is going to essentially be the guy making this decision. He is very clearly on the hot seat as a coach, despite the fact that he won the Super Bowl 3 years ago, despite the fact that he won the division just last year. That is where he finds himself. So if you're going to go down, which no one wants to, but if you are, might as well be making your own decisions and being the one to have the ultimate call. He didn't make any firm decisions, but generally, Tom, when we've seen this, when we've seen coaches decline to name a starter, that would be one. Usually that indicates making a change. And then Doug Peterson also admitted that it may benefit Carson Wentz to not be in there, to just watch from the sideline. It seems, if you read the tea leaves, like Peterson is pointing to a change in Jalen Hurts in as the starter, which for Carson Wentz wouldn't mean goodbye forever. Wentz is not going anywhere based on his contract, but would be potentially a much-needed breather on the sidelines.
Well, and Doug Peterson says this decision is between him and him on who the starting quarterback will be. But let's be honest. These are big-time organizational decisions when you've paid a quarterback like the Eagles are paying Carson Wentz and still have to pay him for at least one more season. If Carson Wentz is on the team next year, he's due $25.4 million in salary and bonuses, a cap number of close to $35 million. If you were able to trade him, he still counts close to $34 million on your cap next year. And if you were to outright cut Carson Wentz, well, his $15.4 million base salary for 2021 is still guaranteed. And then you have all that bonus proration that would accelerate on top of it. You're talking about putting an anchor on your salary cap at a time that, in all likelihood, the cap would go down. So this is not just a matter of who the Eagles roll out there next week. It is what is your plan if you are still the head coach of this football team into 2021 and beyond at the position where you are committed financially, if not in terms of organizationally or competitively, to Carson Wentz for at least one more year.
Look, they're not protecting whomever the quarterback is. They've had 10, 11 different, whatever it is, offensive line combinations. Eagles quarterbacks have been sacked 53 times. They're on pace for David Carr territory. And we love David, obviously, our colleague, our teammate now, on pace for 71 sacks this year. And they get the Saints, who can bring the heat, coming up this week. Peterson says he kind of went back and forth. He said that he'd like to keep this private in terms of, like, he doesn't want it to leak out. And then later he said, but yeah, you know what, I know, I'll tell you guys. So seems like it's kind of a mess. Ian,
you'll be the first ones to know. Never fails.
No. And then it's going to leak out. All right, guys, thank you. Ian, stick around for a little bit. Tom, back a little bit later. Let's put the numbers on the screen here. And also keep in mind that Hurts, under pressure, right? 0 for 5 with an interception. That's according to Next Gen Stats. So what do you have to choose from? Stacey Dales is at the game. Brian Billick with me as well. Hello to you both. Happy Monday to you. Dales, you think he's going to make the switch?
I do. I would find it shocking, actually, if he didn't make the switch. I mean, there was a palpable, I was at that game, as you alluded to, yesterday, a palpable shift when Jalen Hurts came in the football game. I mean, to throw it on, 4th and 18 for a touchdown? I think my dogs are barking in the background. Sorry about that.
They want the quarterback switch, too.
Here's the thing. Carson Wentz, you just talked about it, has been sacked 50 times to lead the National Football League. The average amount of time he's getting sacked per next gen, 4.88 seconds. That tells you there are a myriad of issues for him to hold the ball that long. But the fact is, they're not protecting Carson Wentz. Obviously, they didn't protect Jalen Hurts either, but Jalen Hurts has a pair of legs on him that can scramble and break the pocket. I don't know if he's necessarily ready to take over as the starter for the Philadelphia Eagles, but I don't think Doug Peterson has a choice at this stage, because Carson Wentz, to get sacked that much and to hold the ball for nearly 5 seconds, there's just too much going on, and you got to spark this group somehow.
Yeah. I appreciate you taking a hit for me, Stacey, because I actually think it was my dogs that was barking, so I appreciate you.
Was it yours?
You're protecting me that way. You're absolutely right for a number of different reasons. One, and this is going to sound a little counterintuitive, I think it's in Carson Wentz's best interest. He's not going to learn anything from the sideline, but just to save the butt whooping he's going to get over the next few weeks. You've already talked about the sacks. I don't know that he can survive the rest of the season, particularly the way Carson Wentz plays and the way he's physical in the pocket. So, yeah, you go with Hurts. Again, I don't think it's going to make a lot of difference other than, yeah, he can run around and make some plays that way. But Doug Peterson also knows, boy, the headache he's in for now, because is there a worse city in America to have a quarterback controversy? And if Jalen Hurts, who can come in and kind of make some things happen, the dreaded, we'll have open quarterback competition in the summer. You already heard the guys, with my $35 million quarterback, this just does not bode well for Philadelphia, but it is a move that I think they have to make, and not that it's going to make any difference, but find out what Jalen Hurts can do and go ahead and understand, this is an organizational decision, but boy, this is going to be a major headache for Doug Peterson.
And lost in all of this, of course, the Eagles at 3-8-1 are not in any way, with 4 games left, out of the running to win the NFC East and make the playoffs. So there's that. The Packers, Stacey, lead the NFC North. Aaron Rodgers got to 400 career touchdown passes yesterday. Lambeau's kind of weird. You've been there a few times, right? This year, just all quiet, and Aaron Rodgers throwing touchdowns.
It is eerily quiet at Lambeau. I don't know how to describe it.
I love how you lowered your voice there, too, to describe how eerily quiet it is.
I did, because when I was witnessing this, I want to try to give our viewers, and Coach, you will so appreciate this. Watching Aaron Rodgers right now, we can talk about all the records. There's a piece, and I'm not talking about pieces like pieces to the puzzle. There's a piece, P-E-A-C-E, to his game, to listening to him post-game, to his delivery. It is like a symphony watching him in person. What he's doing this year is absolutely sensational. He is the conductor, and you have the saxophonist, the pianist, the guitarist, the trumpets, everything. They're all playing in unison while he's conducting this thing. It is the perfect orchestra. Watching Aaron Rodgers perform this year, that's the best way I can depict it and illustrate it.
Yeah, and you see and you hear that sense of peace as well during his midweek pressers, especially when he turned 37 earlier this week. And, Coach, they ran the ball to end the game. He didn't have to make all these crazy plays down the field. Aaron Jones ended it.
Yeah, this combination they have between the running game and Aaron Rodgers. And, Stacey, I'm with you 100% on Aaron Rodgers. I mean, what he is doing, as they say he sees the whole board as well as anybody that's played the game right now. Let me give you, I'm just going to throw a number out there to put it in reference. Drew Brees, future Hall of Fame quarterback, guaranteed, first ballot, slam dunk. On better than 10,000 throws, has 240 touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers has 400 touchdowns on a little over 6,000 throws in a career. I mean, just that reference frame shows you just how good this guy is. And now with the running game, clearly the tough thing going to be for them, the run defense has got to get better if they're really going to parlay this combination of what they're doing offensively. But Aaron Rodgers is playing as well as any quarterback we've ever seen. And you're exactly right. There is a calm about, I mean, that deep throw down the middle to Devontae Adams, like a fall-away jumper, could not have been more accurate if he had run down and handed it to him. It's phenomenal to watch.
Do you guys watch Queen's Gambit when Elizabeth Harmon's staring at the ceiling and she could see the chess pieces kind of moving here, or like Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind where the numbers are floating off the chalkboard? That's kind of like, and maybe the score doesn't indicate it, but that's kind of like at times how Aaron Rodgers is operating on a football field. Coach, to your point. Stacey Dales, Brian Billick, thank you both. You want to jump in? Stacey, go.
I just want to say this. For all the talk about the MVP conversation, I mean, the Green Bay Packers will argue. We have the MVP every single year, okay? There is no question. He plays at, we take for granted what Aaron Rodgers does, I think, personally, and they believe he's the MVP. And Devontae Adams said it. He's my MVP.
They've scored 30 points plus without a turnover 8 times this year. That's pretty phenomenal. Thank you, Stacey. Thank you, Coach. Both back later. Packers, as of now, the number 2 seed in the NFC. The Ravens, as of now, the number 8 seed in the AFC. No, check that. The 9 seed, beg your pardon, in the AFC. And they're going to be on our air tomorrow. The Thursday night game from last week, it's still this week, is going to be the Tuesday game. Just follow me here. And Ian Rappaport says Lamar Jackson could and should be back here, Ian, from the COVID-19 reserve list, which is very good news for the Ravens.
Very good news, and that is what the Ravens expect. And just based on the timing of this whole thing, that basically is the timetable here. 10 days, I believe, was yesterday, Sunday. No official transaction wire on Sunday. So as the Ravens, believe they're going to set to have a walkthrough today, sort of glorified practice. I would not be surprised if Lamar Jackson was able to take part in that. Has not yet officially been announced that he is coming off the COVID-19 list, but certainly in advance of that huge game on Tuesday, that's the expectation.
All right, so expect him back after RG3 started last week. RG3 now in injury reserve with a hamstring injury. Ian, back to the computer. Thank you, sir. And a friendly reminder that game is on our air. All right, yes, you're free to go. Cowboys-Ravens tomorrow. But before the game, we have NFL Game Day kickoff, a special 5:30 Eastern time. Let's call this Thursday Night Football on Tuesday. Does that work? NFL Game Day kickoff tomorrow, 5:30 Eastern time only, right here on NFL Network. Coming up next, the Chiefs keep playing close games in the AFC West. The Chiefs keep winning in the AFC West and elsewhere. Sunday night in the Spotlight next. How about this one yesterday in Tennessee? This was a playoff preview here. Baker Mayfield and the Browns, Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, and the Titans. Both teams would have been in if the playoffs started yesterday. And this was a one-sided affair. Actually, it was a tale of two halves. Here's a Donovan Peoples-Jones 75-yard touchdown. Cleveland got out to this huge early lead. Mayfield threw 4 touchdowns in the first half. First Browns quarterback to do that since Otto Graham in 51. Tennessee made a furious comeback, but in the end, Cleveland wins 41-35.
We gotta finish better, and it starts with me 100%. There's no doubt about that. But it's tricky when you get up by that much of like staying aggressive or calling the dogs off type mentality of you want to run the ball to take the clock away. To give them less opportunities, but at the same time, you don't want to go away from what's working. So it's tricky, but we just have to make those plays. And obviously, if I hold on to the damn football, then it's not going to be close, as close as it should have been.
Jane Slater was at that game with us live now on NFL Now. I said it could be a playoff preview. Actually, they are the 4 and 5 seeds. Tennessee's the 4, Cleveland's the 5. So this would be a first-round matchup right now. The Browns are winning. Everyone's excited. The Titans, though, have dropped 4 out of 7. So what was the real storyline? Browns good, Titans bad?
Well, one of the biggest criticisms of the Browns heading into this one, Andrew, was, sure, they're 8-3, but their wins have come up against teams with losing records. They were 7-0 against teams with those losing records or winning records, losing records, rather. Let me get this together this morning, Andrew. And so for them to go on the road, to move away from what their identity is, and that's the run game, and to have Baker Mayfield be so efficient for a second week in a row, 115 passer rating, but it was the 4 touchdowns in that first half, I think that really stood out. Now, we knew that this Titans defense was a little suspect, but it was the way that they just kept their foot on the gas pedal. I mean, with Baker Mayfield, it was just, he had all the time in the world. And again, we were talking so much about Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt ahead of this one, and that's not what this game was. And so I think it was an impressive performance for them for that. I think more importantly, this team just looked hungrier. And when I talked to their cornerback, Kevin Johnson, about that this week, I said, what is the secret sauce? You guys have a decimated defense, a first-year head coach in Kevin Stefanski. What is the secret? And he said, it is Stefanski. He's relatable, he's young, he's fresh, and they're following that vibe. But I would point out that if you look at the second half, we talked about that decimated defense heading into this game. They weren't able to do much against the Titans. The Titans rattled this one back, put 28 points on the board. This one got very close for Titans to make a comeback. But I do think that you have to put a little bit of respect on this Cleveland Browns team.
Absolutely. They came out, they punched Tennessee in the mouth in a game in which almost no one thought that they had what it takes to go on the road and shut down Derrick Henry. They held him to only 60 yards, forced the first Derrick Henry fumble since Week 13 of last year, and it's a huge win now over both of the AFC South contenders because they had beaten the Colts last month as well. All right, what are the Titans for their side of things, Jane, saying after this one?
Well, you said it right there. I mean, Derrick Henry really was part of this identity of this offense. We thought he was going to have a big day, but ahead of it, remember we had said, against the Browns, for whatever reason, he is sort of limited. And in this one, he had his first fumble and 375 offensive touches. It felt like it sort of took the wind out of their sails a little bit. Now, look, they went into the locker room, counted the half, and as I said, put up 28 points there. And you love to see the effort. That's typically what you get from this Titans team. But this defense has been their Achilles heel this season, and it's something that they're going to have to fix. But you got the sense when you listened to these players post-game that they were literally going to put this one behind them and move forward. And it starts with their head coach, Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel was matter of fact. He said it was poor coaching. It was poor playing. They couldn't sustain drives, and this thing snowballed. So they've got to get that one figured out, because if you pop in the tape and figure out what the Browns did this Titans team, you can really be effective against them. Maybe they'll get their confidence back this week, though, Andrew, as they face the Jacksonville Jaguars.
That game on the road in Jacksonville, but the Jaguars gave the Vikings all they could handle yesterday.
Yesterday was a fun one, Andrew.
Yesterday was a lot more fun than I think a lot of people thought coming in. As I said, on paper, the schedule, you went, Then you're like, wow, these games are good. Thank you, Jane Slater, who was at one of them there. The Browns win over the Titans in Nashville. You know what game was also good and fun? Derek Carr and the Raiders against the winless Jets. I mean, who would have known? But it's another East Coast trip for the Raiders. That's tough. This after playing so poorly last week in Atlanta. You know who didn't play poorly? Darren Waller. A career day for Darren Waller. He had a $123 and 2 touchdowns at the half. He finished with over 200 yards on the day. All right, tight game, fourth quarter. Let's go there. Raiders are up 3. Henry Ruggs fumbles. Javelin Guidry caused it. Marcus May picks it up. The Jets take over on the Raiders 44, and then 6 plays later, Ty Johnson, he was a 6th-round pick of the Lions last year. They waived him in October. And he gives the Jets the lead 28-24 over John Gruden and the Raiders. Raiders, though, get it back. Look at the clock here. March down the field. This is on 4th and 3. Incomplete to Nelson Aguilar. Jets take over on downs on their own 9-yard line. But the Raiders force the 3 and out, and they are going to get it back. Look at the clock. All right? This is 3rd down. This is Derek Carr to Henry Ruggs. Like, what in the world is going on? The Raiders brought the house. Henry Ruggs had a 2-turnover day, and he had a bad drop. But look at this. Against a rookie corner in Lamar Jackson. Like, oh, man. And by the way, they fired Greg Williams. You know that by now, right? They fired Greg Williams after that call.
Everything is happening fast for me. The call came in, a lot of, things running through our minds and everything like that. So, we just played the call that the coaches called and, and we just got to execute, but you got to help us out at the same time, just being a better call at that spot.
So there's no time. I mean, obviously, there's no time you're not vetoing a call. But
yeah, everything was just happening all quick and stuff like that. It's just a tough situation.
Tough situation. Undrafted rookie corner, I should add, although very well respected coming out of school. Hi there, Kim Jones. They fired Greg Williams. They find another way to lose and make it interesting.
Yeah, and firing Greg Williams is obviously the headline, Andrew, but a couple of things. Number one, that was Marcus May, a defensive captain, saying we have to have a better call there. Think about that. That's pretty strong from a player who isn't known for outlandish statements. He's better known as a really good locker room guy and a guy who supports his teammates. And I'm told after that play, Lamar Jackson, the cornerback, as you noted, out of Nebraska, undrafted, got a lot of support in the locker room from his teammates, as he should. As he told the media after, and I'm going to get to that in a second, he said, the call was the call, the play was a play. He said, I'm a rookie. I don't have any seniority to debate that call, and he doesn't. But he also had a choice, Andrew, whether to join Zoom or not afterwards. And I'm told that they did not have to ask him twice, that he knew that Lamar Jackson knew that was part of his responsibility in that moment to get on the media, on the Zoom call with the New York media and explain. And good for him knowing that. He's a good player. He's undrafted for a reason. He doesn't have elite speed. But Henry Ruggs is one of the fastest players on the planet, and he was on an island with him. That's the fault of Greg Williams. And, Andrew, Greg Williams is a really good defensive coordinator who has a long resume, but he'll also tell you he's the smartest guy in the room. And that was not a smart call. Cover zero. And I believe in watching that back, there was a spy. I mean, what are you doing? There was a spy on the field. I mean, one of the guys was dropping back like he was spying Derek Carr. It's incredible to think about what the thought process was there. I don't know if we'll hear it. Greg Williams fired, so obviously he won't be on Zoom with the other coordinators this Friday. But a lot of questions still to answer just from a football standpoint. And I'll leave you with this, and I'm not trying to be a bad guy here. The Jets players deserve to win because they're still playing hard for Adam Gase, and I don't think we should discount that. Big picture, thinking of the draft, thinking of years to come, yesterday might have been the result that most benefits the Jets franchise. I don't say that to be a bad guy.
Of course not.
I say that because I think that's fair, and I think it's obvious.
And yeah, it is obvious, and deep down inside, every Jets fan, or overtly, they will say that. They'll say that out loud here. They go to 0-12. Greg Williams gets fired. As Joe Thomas, who played for Greg in Cleveland, pointed out on Twitter, and others have as well, Greg Williams does this. He's the only one who does this. He brings the house in these kind of end of game, end of half situations because, to your point, he often thinks that he is smarter than everyone else. Is how he has always played it.
And if I may, Andrew, sorry,
yes.
In that spot, I truly believe he wanted to end that game with a sack of Derek Carr rather than ending that game in a less dramatic scenario.
Which he did a couple of years ago in Denver when with the Browns, he ended it with a sack that time. No, Derek Carr ends it with a perfect jump pass of 40-some yards. Hats off to Derek Carr and Henry Ruggs for making the play as well, as much as we want to pound on the Jets for giving it up. Thank you, Kim Jones, who's coming back in a couple of seconds here to talk about the first place New York Giants. How about the first place Leonard Williams led New York Giants? Who saw that coming? Raise your hand. Put it down, you're lying. You saw in this game in Seattle yesterday, even Daniel Jones, who leads the team in rushing. Well, he did coming into the day. Wayne Gallman has now passed him. He can't go with the hamstring injury. Colt McCoy won a game as a starting quarterback for the first time since 2014. NFC East legend Alfred Morris caught that touchdown. In the end, it was the Giants' defense that did it, everybody. The Giants' defense held Russell Wilson under 300 yards. The Giants win 17-12. Colt McCoy threw for only $105. It doesn't matter. They lead the NFC East at 5-7. They now have won 4 games in a row. Kim Jones, that defense is legit. I don't think I ever thought I would say this. Nobody wants to play the Giants right now.
That's probably true, Andrew. In fact, the Seahawks would play them if the playoffs started today. And I hate that phrase. The playoffs don't start today. But to Andrew's point, you're right. I don't think the Seahawks want to play them again right now. And listen, we could spend an hour and a half quibbling about Seattle's approach. But yesterday ended up being a signature win for Joe Judge very early in his Giants tenure. And his 2 most important skill players on offense were Colt McCoy and Wayne Gallman, not necessarily in that order. So this is a signature win for a program that has not had any of those over the last few years. I'll leave you with this, Andrew Siciliano. John Mara, Giants owner, wanted to see progress this season. I'm not speaking for ownership, but I will surmise John Mara is seeing probably more than he expected, and I have to believe he's delighted, especially with a win like yesterday's. That's
Absolutely.
big. That's big because John will tell us when he's not happy.
A legit progress, and Joe Judge this morning said Daniel Jones has a chance, potentially, to play this week against the Cardinals. Thank you, Kim Jones. Big win for the Giants, and a big loss as well for the Seahawks. The Rams are now, thanks to the tiebreaker, they beat the Seahawks head-to-head and division record. Everyone's 2-2. The Rams are now atop the NFC West. The 49ers play tonight 5-6. The Seahawks, they're sitting here 8-4. And Brian Billick, hi there. You think the Seahawks were exposed a bit in this one?
A little bit, because remember, this was at home against a Giant team that all but having played better of late. But the big thing to me was the way the Giants ran on the Seattle Seahawks. They have 190 yards. Again, at home in Seattle. So I think, obviously with Seattle, the defense, they've got a great deal of pride. This isn't the Legion of Boom. But that ability to run on that front 7 will not bode well for them going forward. And you combine that with Russell Wilson and the sacks on Russell Wilson. He had to throw the ball more than 40 times. That's not the way Pete Carroll wants to win. He wants to play great defense, great run defense, run the ball, and have his quarterback obviously make big plays. Russell Wilson is 2-6 over the last 2 years when he throws the ball more than 40 times. So their combination of not being able to hold up against the run and the fact that Russell Wilson had to throw the ball more than 40 times, this doesn't bode well for Seattle. They've got to get that ratio back going forward.
Sacked him 5 times yesterday. They get the Jets coming up next for whatever it is worth. And that run defense, Wayne Gallman's 135, the highest total for any running back so far. Week 13, so they couldn't stop Wayne Gallman. Thank you, Brian Billick, who's back a little bit later in our second hour. Also coming up in our second hour, we have live reports from both Pittsburgh and from Glendale, because I said Gallman's 135 is the best. We still have 3 more games in Week 13, including 2 tonight.
Jalen Hurts has come in for the first time. For Aaron Rodgers, his 400th career touchdown pass, 77 yards for the dagger, Aaron Jones. Gesicki touchdown. Touchdown.
And Mayfield is dropping dimes. Trubisky hit. The ball is free. The Lions say they've got it. Peterson left side. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
It's clock. Picked up by the Patriots. Touchdown, Patriots. Sammy Kordosiewski under and at the number 30. Beats another man. Tight up to the sideline. Into the end zone.
Colts get an absolute gift, and they'll take it. Holy my.
Intercepted. Harry the Pigman. Bailey. The Vikings win.
A pick six for Troy Hill. Late throw comes near side. Kelsey at the 5, angling left. Touchdown.
The first passing touchdown for Taysom Hill. Pass deflected and intercepted by the Giants.
Vegas touchdown. Vegas touchdown. Jackpot and away.
Wow.
Hey, you enjoyed yesterday? I did. We got 2 more games for you tonight, including at 5 o'clock Eastern. The Pittsburgh Steelers trying to remain undefeated, trying to go to 12-0 with the Washington football team in town. We are live at Heinz Field coming up shortly. We are live in Glendale as well as the San Francisco 49ers get a Monday night home game in Arizona against the 8-3 Buffalo Bills. But wait, there's also a game tomorrow. We'll tell you about that one as well between the Ravens and the Cowboys. Welcome to Hour 2 here on a big Monday on NFL Now. From our newsroom in Los Angeles, I'm Andrew Siciliano. We'll also tell you about the 2 teams that made the playoffs yesterday, the Saints and the Chiefs. We officially have 2 of the now 14 playoff slots taken. Okay, this is the time of the year where you come in on Monday morning and think you might have news or some news about coaching, like maybe here in Los Angeles where the Chargers just found, I hate to say a new way to lose yesterday, but they took one of their worst losses in franchise history. 45-point loss. It wasn't that it was 45, it's how they lost, with giving up a special teams touchdown, a punt return to Gunnar Olszewski, and giving up a touchdown off a blocked field goal, and lining up for 5 punts, and on 3 of those 5, having the wrong number of men on the field. A couple of weeks ago, Anthony Lynn fired his special teams coach, and many, hi Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, thought that today Anthony Lynn would also be fired. Ian, you say that today that is not going to happen.
No coaching change is imminent for the Los Angeles Chargers. In fact, from what I understand, talking to sources involved in the situation, the preference from the Chargers is to make a decision not now, but at the end of the season, just have a full body of work to evaluate Anthony Lynn and his staff. Not necessarily saying that a change is coming or that one is not coming. They want the entire picture to evaluate first. And you look at Anthony Lynn's record. He led the team to a 12-4 record a couple years back, best in the AFC. Obviously, the last couple years have been struggles. Some of the in-game, end-game situations have not gone in the Chargers' way, have not been pretty. And, of course, yesterday you mentioned several of the special teams gaffes. He is also a widely respected person inside the organization. They think he is a very good coach, so they want to wait till they make a decision till several more weeks to go.
Let's make something clear here. People love Anthony Lynn, all right? No one wants to see Anthony Lynn fired here. You say Ian, well respected. That's even a bit of an understatement here. But his teams just find new and creative ways to lose every week, it seems. And yesterday was embarrassing. His words, not mine. Also embarrassing, Tom, a lot of people think, was the fact that the Jets gave up that long touchdown to Henry Ruggs to drop to 0-12. And today, Greg Williams paid the price for that.
Jets firing Greg Williams as their defensive coordinator, Andrew, one day after that bizarre call, a 0 blitz, leaving an undrafted rookie cornerback, Lamar Jackson, one-on-one against one of the fastest players in the NFL, Henry Ruggs, who catches that bomb, gets the Raiders a win, and deprives the Jets of their first victory of the season. Now, we know that there had been tension surrounding Greg Williams going all the way back to mid-October when he made some comments publicly that, in essence, blamed Adam Gase's offense for some of the struggles of Williams' defense. Well, Adam Gase did not want to fire Greg Williams. He did not plan to fire Greg Williams. He wanted to push through that at a time that certainly everybody is in a tenuous spot with the New York Jets. But when you not only make that call, but have a veteran locker room leader like Marcus May coming out publicly and saying, we've got to be in a better call, you've got to help us out. It just got to the point that Greg Williams could no longer be in Jets headquarters.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And really, Tom, the fact that it did not work out between Greg Williams and Adam Gase is not exactly a surprise. Go back a couple years to when Gase was hired. He was fine with Greg Williams, don't get me wrong, but this is something certainly the general manager, Mike McHagnon at the time, pushed for and seemed to want. When a head coach doesn't pick his staff, rarely does it end well. And, you know, there were moments where it was okay, but obviously this year, especially the last month and a half or so, it was not in a good place. And Greg Williams called at the end of the game to lose the game in unbelievable fashion, really encapsulated things perfectly. And from what I understand, as far as the rest of the coaching staff for the Jets goes, didn't sound like they want to make any decisions till the end of the season.
So Frank Bush has taken over here. The Jets just moments ago, before we came on the air here at 2 o'clock Eastern time, did make that official. Greg Williams is out, and the Jets get ready for the Seahawks now. Have fun with that after losing to the Giants. And then we have the Eagles after they go into Green Bay and lose to the Packers. Actually turned out to be a one-possession game late in the fourth quarter. After Jalen Hurts made a second-half push when Carson Wentz was benched. Doug Peterson, Ian, about an hour and a half ago, said he has not yet made a decision who starts Week 14. I'd kind of be surprised if it's not Hurts here. Am I crazy?
You are crazy, but nothing to do with this Eagles situation.
I set you up for that. Hold on. I would have been disappointed if you didn't take that. I set you up for that. Just throwing the alley-oop. I'm not sure you can get to the rim, but I would have been disappointed if you did not dunk that.
No. Don't turn this on me. You're the weird one.
Andrew just make a short joke about Ian? This is a momentous day.
Yeah.
Hey, we got to pick on people our own size.
No, we're going to turn
right?
this on Andrew now.
Mm-hmm.
No. So anyway, as far as the Eagles and Doug Peterson go, I'm sensing at least that you're heading in the right direction here. Usually when the starter is going to stay the same, the head coach just says so. It's not unprecedented to keep Carson, but generally saying he has not made a decision on changing the starter. Usually that means you're at least looking very, very hard at a change. In the same press conference, Doug Peterson, Tom, also acknowledged that it would probably benefit everyone to have Carson Wentz watching from the sideline, all of which kind of paves the way for a potential spark from Jalen Hurts. The other thing is, Carson is not going anywhere. They really cannot cut him after the season, or else they get a $60 million charge as far as the salary cap goes. They have to make this work. It just seems like they may be leaning toward a direction of a little break for Carson.
Ian, these are big-time organizational decisions. As much as Doug Peterson said that this call is between him and him, or me and me, as Doug said it, you have to go to the highest levels of the organization when you have a financial commitment like they have made to Carson Wentz. His $15.4 million base salary for 2021 is fully guaranteed, and his 2022 salary becomes fully vested if he is still on the roster come March. As you said, Ian, there are cap implications here, depending whether or not they potentially could trade Carson Wentz. Would they even release Carson Wentz? None of it is ideal. At the time they gave this extension, they believed Carson Wentz was going to be their quarterback of the future. Now with questions surrounding that, there aren't a ton of good options. All that has to factor into how you proceed here over the next week.
All right, so a decision looming here as the Eagles get ready for the Saints. The Panthers are coming back, meantime, from a bye. They're getting ready for the Broncos here. Had a bit of a COVID scare in the building, so they're not actually in the building today, Ian. But what do we know about Christian McCaffrey?
Well, finally, Christian McCaffrey is expected back on the field. Remember, it was supposed to be several weeks ago, and then the Panthers pulled back and said, you know what, let's make sure that his shoulder injury, his very painful shoulder injury, actually heals completely before we put one of the faces of the franchise back on the field after the bye week. Matt Rule said today at his press conference, conducted virtually, as you mentioned, that he does, in fact, expect McCaffrey back. That's good news. But not as good news, the COVID situation in their building. I'm told DJ Moore, their leading receiver, also nursing an ankle injury, is being placed on the COVID-19 list, which almost certainly will knock him out for this week's game.
Okay, Tom Pelissero, we have a couple of coaching vacancies here, 3 of them specifically, if memory serves. It is almost interview season. We have a new memo and new rules about interview season.
That's right, Andrew, and this is the latest big change that the NFL has made in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to a memo that went out just a couple of hours ago from the NFL office, all interviews must be conducted virtually, not in person, with any coach who is still in the playoffs. In other words, in past years, let's say you wanted to hire an Eric Bieniemy. Well, it would be common practice for a team to fly in the first couple of weeks of the playoffs during the specified window, sit down with them, maybe a couple of days before a game, have an in-person interview. That will no longer be allowed. Any of those types of sessions would have to take place on Zoom. Also, any interviews with people not currently employed by NFL clubs, somebody who's out of work, somebody who's been fired, those also have to be virtual only until the regular season ends. Only when a team is eliminated from the postseason or doesn't make the postseason at all would you be able to bring them in person. And even then, there are additional restrictions, including trying to do shorter interviews. Part of the guidance is a series of 30-minute interviews is lower risk than a 2-hour interview or a 3-hour interview. There's also mandates on wearing masks, on social distancing. A lot of the things we've heard in NFL facilities all season now applying and lending a different dynamic to the upcoming coaching and GM vacancies.
Ian, you're waving. You want to jump in here on the Panthers, I'm guessing?
Yeah, just got official word from the Panthers on how many players are being placed on the COVID-19 reserve list. Mentioned DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, their electric receiver / running back, also being placed on the list. Derek Brown, defensive tackle, Greg Little, Shaq Thompson, a lot of very good players for the Carolina Panthers. 8 in all to go along with the 2 that were placed on it from last week.
Yeah, this was, while Tom was speaking here, the Panthers hit send on it. This is a long list here. Coming off a bye, the Panthers just put 8 guys on the COVID-19 reserve list. Doesn't mean you've tested positive. It means you might be a close contact to somebody that was a positive or some kind of exposure here. But DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, Derek Brown, Shaq Thompson, we'll keep an eye on this one, certainly, as they get ready to get back potentially here and play Week 14 against the Broncos. Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, thank you both. I mentioned here at the top of the hour the 2 teams made the playoffs yesterday. One of them, the Taysom Hill-led New Orleans Saints. They were the first team to get in by winning their 9th consecutive. The narrative had been Taysom Hill had never thrown a touchdown pass. 57 career attempts without a touchdown pass. Well, he not only threw 1, he threw 2 yesterday. That one to Traquan Smith, and this one here to Jared Cook. 10 of 12. Taysom Hill was 10 of 12 on 3rd down yesterday. Maybe he is really a quarterback. Go to the 4th quarter here. Hill can also help the other team. You know, he can extend plays, and he can also fumble here. That's his 4th lost fumble of the season, and Deion Jones is going to pick it up, and the Falcons are going to march down the other way, and Matt Ryan's going to make him pay. Russell Gage with this. First touchdown allowed by the Saints defense in 43 possessions. The Saints would then punt, okay? So the Falcons get it back. Look at the clock here, under 2 to go on 3rd and 2. Todd Gurley's going the wrong way. Demario Davis, huge stop there. Gurley had a rough day, only 16 yards on the ground. So now it's 4th down. Ryan, end zone, Julio, one hand. No, it's over, right? No, it isn't. It is not over because Taysom Hill's going to fumble the ball backwards. Now, it went out of bounds, okay? The Saints would eventually have to punt, and Matt Ryan has one more shot, everybody. Say your prayers. Nope. Didn't work. Taysom Hill and the New Orleans Saints, everybody, have won 9 in a row. Well, he's won 3 of them, and they are in the playoffs.
As far as my overall development and, you know, the process, I feel like I'm becoming more and more comfortable operating the offense, and I feel like, you know, there are so many ways that I can continue to get better.
Yeah, Taysom Hill is proving he could win a little bit, and the Saints, I think, and this is key here, are proving that they could win without their Hall of Fame quarterback. 5-0 last year with Teddy Bridgewater, 3-0 this year with Taysom Hill. They are the 1 seed in the NFC. Brian Billick back with me now on NFL Now. Taysom's kind of proven he can do it, huh?
Yeah, you could sense almost the glee in Sean Payton's voice, recognizing that he has the #1 team in the NFC without his starting future Hall of Fame quarterback, and that he doesn't have to worry about his quarterback position maybe when Drew decides to move on. This was a legitimate game for Taysom Hill. You know, you talk about 37 throws, 27 to 37, better than 70%, was brilliant on third down, 11 to 13. And with the 2 touchdowns, didn't throw any interceptions. Now he has to clean up the fumbles a little bit, but he played kind of a complete quarterback game, and he's going to have some more opportunities here to show, and Sean Payton will do more and more and feel better and better about wrapping a quarterback game around him, not just a wildcat kind of run him around, and develop not only for now, but going for the future. And also, by the way, we don't have to rush Drew Brees back. You know, how great is that? Now, I got to clean up something from last hour. I conflated his touchdowns. He has better than 500 touchdowns, okay, to his 240 interceptions. I messed with that. You don't mess with the man's touchdowns, okay? So I apologize for doing that. For he and Aaron Rodgers, both pretty good.
Yeah, his resume speaks for itself. He's going to get the gold jacket to go with his gold helmet one day. But what do you do now? I mean, you said you don't have to rush him back. This offense looks pretty good with this other guy.
Well, make no mistake that Drew Brees, when he's ready, but Drew Brees is a point in his career. Like we said, this is a Hall of Famer that he can make sure he's really feeling good before he comes back into the game. I'm sure he's going to want to come back with a couple games to get back. He doesn't want to go into the playoffs without getting a few more games under his belt, so to speak, to get back into that rhythm. It's not like he's sitting there worried about Taysom Hill taking his job, but by the same token, the competitor in him. And let's remember Wally Pipp, you know, the story. I mean, it's not like that's going to happen that way. But Drew Brees is very comfortable with it and anxious that this team perform well, maybe to get that #1 seed for the NFC going into the playoffs, then have that extra week. So, yeah, he's on board with this, but I'm sure he wants to begin to get back and play when he can, but he doesn't have to do it too soon with very, very painful rib injuries.
And for our younger audience, and Coach, we'll age ourselves here, Google Lou Gehrig. There's an H in there.
That's right.
When you spell it, and you could read the story of Wally Pipp.
Wally Pipp.
Brian Billick's coming right back with us, by the way, with more insight as we continue here on Hour 2 of NFL Now. Like, what should they do in Philadelphia? Jalen Hurts or Carson Wentz? Here's the news out of Carolina that just broke. 8 Panthers were just placed on the COVID-19 reserve list, included in there Curtis Samuel, who is said to be a close contact, Ian Rappaport says, of DJ Moore. DJ Moore tested positive. And 8 guys in total on that list. Also Shaq Thompson, also Derek Brown on the defensive side of the ball. Panthers are coming off a bye. They get the Broncos. That is a 1 o'clock kick. An early game scheduled for Sunday now, Week 14. It is a story to keep an eye on, certainly, as we can continue. Let's do that here by going back to a game from Sunday. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers among the elite in the NFC. The Eagles still somehow in it in the NFC East. And this story about Rodgers and Devontae Adams. What a day he had. 10 catches for $121 and 2 touchdowns. There was 1, and here was 2. Aaron Rodgers has 400 career touchdown passes. He's the fastest to get there in NFL history. Only 193 games, and they had a moment. I think they shared a moment there. Carson Wentz did not have many good moments in this one. So just put the sacks in perspective here. He has been sacked, Wentz has, 3 or more times in 10 consecutive games. All right, he's on pace for 67 sacks. That 10 consecutive with 3 or more is the longest NFL streak in 22 years. And eventually Carson Wentz would be benched. They're down 3 scores, and you bring in Jalen Hurts. You wanted Jalen Hurts. You are going to get Jalen Hurts. And you're going to get a 4th and 18 throw on the run. The former college quarterback, Greg Ward. And the Eagles get it to 23-10. Wentz has the helmet on. He's listening to the play calls. He's applauding, as well he should. Good teammate. After a Jalen Reagor punt return touchdown, this is a 1-score game with 2:45 to go. Aaron Jones is going to end it. And he's going to win you your fantasy league as well. At least he won my league. Bags of soup, big win. 30-16. Packers over the Eagles. Huge win for them, and now a huge decision for Doug Peterson.
I'm not prepared right now to make any statement or decisions on that. You know, I'm still processing a lot of things and going through a lot of things before I make that decision. So that when I know, you'll know.
Sure. I'm not asking what the decision is, but what goes into that decision?
I would like to keep those private, so that's just between me and me.
Hi, Bucky Brooks. Reminds me of the Biz Marquee classic, Me Versus Me. Biz Marquee, big NFL Network fan. Totally different story. Bucky, going back to your podcast last week, you and DJ were talking about how you can't figure out what this offense is. Like a lot of cooks in the kitchen here. Is it West Coast? I go, what is it? Did Doug and this staff do everything they could have done before they pulled the plug yesterday on Carson Wentz?
Actually, I think they have. I think they've really tried to shield the franchise quarterback from criticism. They've tried to give him every opportunity to play his way out of the slump. And I think when you're the coach and you have a franchise quarterback that's making the money that Carson Wentz is making, you want to exhaust all of your options before you pull the plug. And so what they did is they changed the play caller. Press Taylor had called some of the plays. They changed some of the pieces around Carson Wentz. We saw Alshon Jeffrey return to the lineup. Jalen Reagor back in the lineup. They've changed tempos. They try to play fast at times. They try to do different tactics to get them going. And finally, you, Doug Peterson, you begin to lose your credibility in front of your team if you stand in front of your team and you're always saying the best players play, and the team looks at the quarterback and they know he's not playing well, but yet he gets the ball every week. He had to pull the plug and give the young guy, Jalen Hurts, an opportunity to play. And Carson Wentz has to sit back, refocus, recharge, and then have an opportunity to revisit the opportunity to be the starting quarterback.
Should this be permanent? You think Hurts has to play this week, start this week against the Saints?
Man, I don't know if this should be permanent. I think it's short term. I think maybe a week off would help Carson Wentz to just see the game through a different lens from the sideline, to take some of the pressure off. He is mired in a bad slump. And sometimes when you're in a slump, you tend to think that I'm going to work harder, I'm going to put more hours in, I'm going to do more. And maybe they need to let some of that air out the balloon, let them relax for a bit, let Jalen Hurts take all the ones, try and focus on the little things and get back in. I don't think it would be a bad thing to start Jalen Hurts this week.
Again, against a Saints defense that right now is the #1 total defense in the NFL. And that game is in Philadelphia. Thank you, Bucky Brooks. Always good to see you, sir, on a Monday. Hey, big day coming up on Thursday here on NFL Network, specifically on Good Morning Football. That is when we will reveal the 32 names, the 32 finalists, one from each team for this year's Walter Payton Man of the Year Award, presented to you by Nationwide. It is the most prestigious honor we can hand out. Good Morning Football. Thursday, the 32 finalists for the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award, as always, presented by Nationwide. Coming up on this show, some highlights. Big one in Arizona. Sean McVay and the Rams got off that bad loss to the 49ers. Cardinals needing to right the ship as well. McVay has not lost to these guys, and he wouldn't yesterday either. Jared Goff bounced back after a lot of public criticism from not only his coach, but from all corners. Here's a touchdown here to Tyler Higbee. And I don't know if you know this, but McVay's never lost when leading at the half. Have you ever heard that stat before? You know, Jerome Bettis is from Detroit. Totally unrelated story. Kyler Murray made a few plays in this one, although he still does not seem right since that shoulder injury. Here's a DeAndre Hopkins touchdown. For the most part, though, Jalen Ramsey shut down DeAndre Hopkins. This game got interesting when Simba Webster fumbled this punt, and Trent Sherfield recovered it for the Cardinals. They're going to take over inside the 20, and then 2 plays later, Kenyon Drake gets the 4-yard touchdown, gets to the pylon, and this is a 24-21 game after the Simba mistake. But the Rams, and this is the key drive of the game, they get the ball back and they go right down the field. And Darrell Henderson, who had a knee injury in the first half, had been deemed questionable to return. Darrell Henderson does return. He gets back into the end zone. And then the defense makes it happen. Troy Hill, another pick six. Back-to-back games. Rams badly needed it. Rams badly needed it. And they get the win, 38-28.
It was, I responded exactly how I expected to. I've been through a lot of bad things in my football career before and have consistently responded, and this was no different. And another one that I just had to put my head down and keep working.
Honestly, I just think we got to find a way to win. We've been in every single game, pretty much that we've lost. We've been in those games and have had chances to win. Little mistakes here and there, turnovers, whether, penalties, stuff like that. Not playing complimentary football, that gets you beat. And I think that's kind of just who we are right now. Just not, we're not, just not finding a way.
And they did not find a way at all. Now they find themselves at 6-6 here. And right now they're officially out of the playoff picture because the Vikings have the tiebreaker on common opponents over the Cardinals. Rams are 8-4, and the Rams now have a very short week. They have to get back to work. They might not have Michael Brockers. And they get the Patriots at home on TNF here in Los Angeles. What did we learn from this one? Bucky Brooks, Brian Billick. Gentlemen, hello. Both back with me on NFL Now. Bucky, what do we learn about McVay and the quarterback that he criticized a lot last week, Jared Goff?
Oh, it's all about the play caller. It is all about Sean McVay and how Sean McVay sets up the game for the quarterback. When we think about Jared Goff, and he was in the 2017 draft class with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is struggling. Jared Goff was struggling. What is the difference? The play caller. When I look at the way that they played against the Arizona Cardinals, setting them up, when you go back and you look at all the stats, Jared Goff is one of the best in the business, throwing play-action passes, particularly when he's outside of the pocket. Quick rhythm throws, laying it out to the flat defender, doing it over and over and over again. Well, what do we see? We see Sean McVay put his quarterback in that situation. We saw him really set up easy throws for Jared Goff. And I will give Jared Goff credit for this. He listened to all the criticism, but he's a tough-minded individual. He handled it, and he played well. I think this was a huge step in the right direction for the LA Rams because the play caller got it right.
Yeah, we also learned what we've learned over the last couple of weeks, particularly last week with this Arizona team versus the Patriots, that if you limit Kyler Murray to 5 or fewer runs, in other words, you keep him in that pocket, you slow rush, make him beat you from the pocket, and then double, sometimes triple DeAndre Hopkins, that this team's going to struggle. They're 0-11-1 when Kyler Murray does not run for better than 40 yards, does not have better than 5 carries in the game. So that's going to be what they're going to face going forward. People that want to slow rush and keep him in the pocket, take away DeAndre Hopkins as best you can because he's still going to make some plays, and then see if Kyler Murray can make enough plays to enough other people, because if he gets outside the pocket, you know you're going to lose. So people are beginning to get that book on him and putting more and more resources in keeping him in the pocket and to fewer than 5 runs.
They get the Giants next, and the Giants did a great job keeping Russell in the pocket yesterday. And listen, I'm not piling on the Cardinals, but they are a Hail Murray away from being losers of 5 straight right now. And right now, they're the 8th seed. All right, guys, stay there. Let's get another one in here. Let's figure out what we learned about this one. A playoff preview. And because the Browns went into Tennessee and beat up on the Titans, this would be a game right now, opening weekend, wild card weekend in the AFC playoffs. Baker Mayfield threw 4 first-half touchdowns. This one was in 13 personnel to a 6th-round rookie who made a double move with only 2 guys in the route. Donovan Peoples-Jones, the 75-yard touchdown. And here's one as well to Hollywood Higgins, Rashard Higgins. Huge win for the Browns. They went on the road and they kind of proved that, you know what, they can beat good teams. Coach, what do we learn about Baker and the Browns? Did I steal your thunder there?
No, not at all. And that was the challenge because they didn't. I said last week, they wouldn't go in the BCS because they didn't have a quality win beyond Indianapolis. Well, they do now against Tennessee. And we learned that Baker Mayfield, maybe he's truly beginning to grow up. This formula of a little over 30 throws, they run the ball well, not throwing interceptions. I loved what he said after the game because maturity and understanding how he needs to conduct himself as a quarterback to win. When he said, you know what, I've gotten to the point where I realize if I think I'm going to do something stupid, I don't. Well, that's pretty good. I mean, that's a jump for him, and it's showing an understanding and maturity that, yes, we can run the ball pretty good. Our defense, the way they stopped Derrick Henry, I can still make these aggressive big plays, but I don't have to force the ball in when it's not there, particularly when we're in control of the game. This might have been a sea change for Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns.
You know, Coach, you talk about the Cleveland Browns. I want to focus on the Tennessee Titans, and I'm beginning to worry about the Tennessee Titans defensively. They don't have a pass rush. Their inability to make the quarterback uncomfortable is problematic. Baker Mayfield had 33 dropbacks. He was only pressured on one of those dropbacks. We know in this league, if you give quarterbacks time, the quarterback play is too good. So many quarterbacks in this league will slice and dice you apart. For the Tennessee Titans to be real contenders in the AFC, they better find a way to pressure the passer. They need to find a pass rush, and they need to find it quickly.
I love how Baker Mayfield, Coach, to your point, is quoting Dwight K. Schrute after the game. He was more, however, yesterday than an assistant to the regional manager. Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Bucky. What did we learn? We learned a lot. Coming up next, what are we going to learn about the Steelers tonight? Do they remain undefeated, or can Alex Smith pull the stunner for the Washington team? Live, Heinz Field, Monday Night Football next. And Monday Night Preview here in Aditi Kinkhabwala are the only remaining undefeated team in the National Football League. Hi, Aditi. Everywhere, though, I walk around in my neighborhood, I have people ask me from a socially distanced, safe distance of 6 feet, like, come on, really? They're not that good? I say, yes, I think they are. They're 11-0.
Well, so Andrew, when was the last time we heard an 11-0 team so maligned? 2015 with the Panthers, when guess who was the head coach? Ron Rivera, who is now bringing his Washington football team in here tonight. And I talked to Ron Rivera for quite some time this weekend. We talked about the eerie similarities. Wait, let me go backwards, Andrew. I'm sorry. Ron Rivera not only was the coach of an 11-0 team with the 2015 Panthers, he was also a player of an 11-0 team with the 1985 Bears. And what Rivera told me is that there are so many similarities in the outside perspective of these teams. Just like people are questioning whether Ben Roethlisberger can really do it or still has it. People were questioning whether Jim McMahon was that great. They were questioning whether Cam Newton can do it. The same way the people are saying that the Steelers are winning ugly, that their point differential is not that impressive. That's what they were saying about the Panthers in 2015. So here's what Ron Rivera said. This is a really, really good football team. He, in fact, said to me, he thinks that this Steelers team is as good as those Patriots teams that were winning multiple Super Bowls. He said this is as good of a football team as we've seen in the NFL in quite some time. And here's what he said. When you cannot play your best and still win, then you're playing pretty good. He said when you can blow somebody out and still see that you've left so much on the table, then you're playing really well. And he said the way that he sees it, this Steelers team has won some really big games under some arduous circumstances. And he also believes in what Mike Tomlin says, that the Steelers get everybody's best game. It's exactly what he told his own team, Andrew. He said to them, we'll see how you play on Monday, and that will give us a pretty good gauge of where exactly we are.
And Washington certainly has a defense to give Pittsburgh a really good shot here, and now a quarterback that's given them some hope. And, you know, as much as we want to crown the Giants here, Washington is only one game back in the win column. Granted, they're, you know, the head-to-heads, that's not good, but only one game back in the division.
And Andrew, you know, you're right that it's the defensive front for Washington that will be the key to their success tonight if there is to be success. But look, Alex Smith is much more than just a really good story. Ron Rivera told me that since he made that switch, the whole entire team has been imbued with a different confidence, and it's really accelerated the development and growth of the younger players. He said when they had to learn with Dwayne Haskins, then everybody was learning together. Right now, the way he put it, if you know to run a certain route, Alex Smith is going to have the ball exactly where it's supposed to be. That has changed the way that this team can grow. And certainly Rivera said he's seeing a lot more confidence in this team right now than he was even a month ago.
Okay, this is a good one. 5 p.m. Eastern time today. It's a Fox-Haim regional game. Check your local listings. Aditi Kinkhabwala, thank you, live there in Heinz Field. It is the first of two. The second game is the regularly scheduled game, except it's not really regular because it's in Glendale and it's a 49ers home game. It's the Bills, it's the Niners. They have relocated to Arizona for for a couple of weeks now, at least Omar Ruiz, because of restrictions for COVID-19 in Santa Clara, California, where they call home. How are things going?
Hi, Andrew. It's the Glendale, Arizona, San Francisco 49ers of Santa Clara. You mentioned the COVID protocols in Santa Clara County, why they've moved here on Wednesday. Now, some of the players and coaching staff looking for places to live here for their temporary stay. They're approaching it week by week. Kyle Shanahan wanted his team to approach this particular week like one of those stays that they have on the East Coast when they play and stay there between games, like they did at the Greenbrier earlier this season, like they've done in Youngstown and Florida in years past. It's all part of the no excuses mentality of this football team. Obviously, they've been hurt by so many injuries this season. Now the displacement, but they've played their way to 5-6 in the thick of the NFC wild card picture. Shanahan getting his team back healthy at the right time. They've played just 2 games the past 32 days. They're going to have Deebo Samuel, Raheem Mostert, Brandon Ayuk now tonight in the same lineup for the first time since week 6. Meanwhile, Robert Saleh's defense ranked 6th in the league. He told me that this unit that he's coaching here in 2020 plays harder than any team he's ever coached, saying something consider he used to coach with the Legion of Boom, hoping to prove that here tonight on Monday Night Football.
And he'll have his hands full, no doubt, with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and that whole crew as they now have to come back to the building where just a couple of weeks ago they could have had another win, but that whole, DeAndre Hopkins Hail Murray thing happened.
You know, when they left here, Andrew, they were thinking, golly, good thing we don't have to play here again until 2028. Instead, it is their very next road game. I was speaking with General Manager Brandon Beane earlier this week. He said, yeah, it's returning to the scene of the crime. They're hoping to exercise some ghosts tonight. But really speaking about the maturity of this team, remember, they had a bye after that Hail Murray, and they had to hear about that for 2 straight weeks. Obviously came out and beat the Chargers at home last week. And we're going to get to know the Buffalo Bills and that maturity here the next 4 weeks as this spotlight will grow intensely on this football team. They're going to be playing under the national spotlight a couple Monday night games here, including tonight, Sunday Night Football next week, and a Saturday game right here on NFL Network in a couple weeks. And what Beane said is this team really is focused on winning the division. We know that they've been to the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years, but they're looking to get a home playoff game for the first time since 1996, Jim Kelly's final game as a Bill. There may not be fans in the stands, but we know what sort of home field advantage Buffalo can provide in January. This is a team that obviously has familiarity in the playoffs, but they don't want to just get there this year, actually want to do damage, hoping that starts this run here in December tonight.
All right, as it's a very odd one there in Arizona with the Niners as the home team. Omar Ruiz will be there. Thank you, sir. And oh, by the way, there's also a game on Tuesday. Coming up, any and everything that you need to know about the Cowboys and potentially Lamar Jackson's Ravens. That's next. Hey, we have time for one more thing before we go. Ian Rappaport getting off the phone. What do you have?
I am off the phone.
I know.
Anyway, according to the Associated Press, someone broke into Tom Brady's mansion in Brookline and sat on the couch for a while and then was arrested. You shouldn't do that. Don't go into people's houses and sit on the couch.
That's all he did is just sit on the couch?
Don't do that.
Wow.
Yeah, don't do that.
It's like a weird David Lynch movie. Tom?
Colts offensive lineman LaRaven Clark suffered what the team believes to be a torn Achilles yesterday. Clark was carted off the field. That means now with Anthony Costanzo dealing with a knee injury, they're down to their 3rd option on Phillip Rivers' blindside.
Yikes. And the Titans lost yesterday. It also was pretty ugly. They turned the ball over 3 times, had multiple personal fouls. Earlier this morning, Mike Vrabel was asked, what's the message to the team? And he said, quote, the message is, don't do dumb bleep. All right. Maybe put that on a
tweet
t-shirt.
That to Ian 5
message for life.
Aftermath is next, everybody.